Hello and welcome to the Bee Formless Flow Driven CEO podcast. Welcome to the show, Nikki Green.
Thank you so much for having me.
No, you're welcome. Nikki, you and I have a bit of a 6 degrees of separation in terms of you've been to Australia before. Your best friend lives in Manly. So that's pretty cool that we've got some sort of, not that it's like I know your best friend or anything like that, but I do love the fact that,
Not yet.
no, not yet, not yet. And I'm really thrilled to be talking to you because it's going to be one enduring conversation, let's just put it that way, because there's lots for us to cover up, but we're going to have some specific focus on enduring endurance today. But let's start with you're the founder of Green Chameleon Collective. I nearly forgot to pronounce that the right way, and the creator of the NikkiGreen.com platform. You're an entrepreneur, author, and podcast host who has built a career blending endurance, creativity, and business strategy. But here's the thing, you've competed in dozens of endurance events and are competing in the Chicago Marathon in 2 weeks. What an epic marathon that will be. Endurance events in terms of marathons, triathlons across 3 continents, and you apply that same long-term preparation, resilience, and commitment to your approach in life and business. Your podcast, I should have said, is Stand Up and Stand Out and established back in 2021. And I think there's something really interesting in that stand up and stand out as well. Tell us a bit about yourself and your journey and how you came to your business, but also how you came to putting yourself through these endurance events that you put yourself through and seem to continue to do.
Well, I think a lot of people can relate because I spent the last 25 years working in Silicon Valley, high-tech jobs, traveling all around the world, high stress, a lot of pressure. I'm a very type A person, got to be all in, doing
Same.
all the things. And I needed an outlet. I needed an outlet to, solve the problems I was going through, the complexity of the projects I was on. And I found camaraderie through doing these events and training with other people that I worked with. And I got to meet people in other departments. So I actually, it was sort of like a social thing in the beginning. And then, of course, it became a competitive thing because I am who I am. And while I was traveling to all these amazing places, I thought, how great would it be if I could also race while I was there for work and really, get more involved in the community locally. And it actually ended up being the very first business I built, which was called Purple Turtle Events. And I did triathlon conditioning and training with people. So I really learned not just how to train myself, but how to train elite athletes.
Wow.
And then I use a lot of those same methodologies in my business coaching today.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And so, like, in terms of working, but also then wanting to get into endurance events in the various different places that you were traveling to, how did you find the time? Like, how did you find the time to do all of that? Like, I get the type A personality, but like, that would have been quite hectic because here you are, you're not in your own environment, you're staying probably in hotels. You've got all this work going on. You're high flying, and then you're also competing, and it becomes like a sport for you. How were you able to juggle all of that? Like, yeah.
The running and traveling was quite easy, and it actually gave me a really great way of, oh, I'm jet lagged, or I'm not quite sleeping well, or I need to get on the schedule of
Yeah.
wherever I'm at to be able to, one, explore where I was going, but also to get that exercise and get my circadian rhythms on track. And so, I was in Ireland for 2 weeks and I ran along the river there in Dublin. And, I found other people at the company I worked with that also did it. So we spent time together. Every time I went to Australia, it was a great way to go and see Sydney or go
Oh,
swim at the
yeah.
beach in Manly.
Yeah.
And so it became this fun thing. It wasn't like a work out, like you might normally go to the gym and you're like, okay, I got to
Yeah.
get this power workout in. It started to become a really just fun thing where I got to see places in a city that I probably would have never seen had I didn't have some very specific kind of distance I was trying to get to and tour around. So
And would you power yourself up in the morning, or was that a morning thing or an evening thing for you, the training? Like, or was it both?
It was both because, it kind of depended on what was going on with my jet lag and like how I was feeling. And I was sort of just going with the flow. So, one time I got to Singapore and it was still sort of Saturday because of the way the time difference was. And I couldn't sleep. It was like 4 o'clock in the morning. And I was like, well, it's nice outside. It's warm. I might as well just go
Go for
for a
a
run.
run. Yeah.
And so I ran through the whole, Marina Bay Sands and all around the area there. And it was just beautiful. It was a great way to start the day. And then I actually went back to sleep for a couple hours before I had to go to work.
Oh,
And
how
so,
nice. How nice. I don't know about you. I am certainly going to probably be pivoting, jumping around in different conversations here as things come up for me. But I've always found with running or doing some sort of endurance type event that it's like a I go into a meditative state. Can't pronounce that properly. Does that ha like what happens to you when you're like for example, you've got a lot going on from a business perspective, or you're in, the role you were in previously, and then you almost go running. And it's almost like I quite often find in those situations that things just drop for me. It's almost like everything kind of just falls into place, or I find answers that I had been struggling with. Like, does that happen? Like, it's almost like that, the flow cycle, right? The struggle, release, flow, active recovery type. You know what I mean? Like, so does that happen to you?
Mhm.
Like, when you're running, or do you not think about anything, or when you're doing endurance events, I should say?
Yeah, I love it because it does exactly that. And I always say the first two, miles, first few kilometers are always the toughest because your body is still kind of going, why are we doing this? And your mind is,
Yeah.
kind of pushing back. But once you get past that, I always try to pick a big problem that I haven't been able to solve. And then depending on how long, I'm out there, I'll come to it, I'll come back, right? I'll come back to it, I'll think of some other problem I have in my personal life or whatever.
Yeah.
And so it allows you to really process like the emotions you're feeling, why you're not able to solve it, like get a bit deeper than just like, oh, I just need to fix this. And so it's really important, I think, to kind of allow it to do that. And so you're not just rushing around from meeting to meeting like you normally are in your workday.
Yeah, it's really interesting because it's like that non-time, right? You throw a problem out there, but you forget about it, but because you're focusing on, oh my gosh, I'm just starting this run. What am I doing? What's my body's screaming at me, sort of thing, or like you're putting it all together. It's almost like you're disconnected. Here's a thought. You're almost like starting off disconnected. You're not aligned, and then you're almost like interconnecting yourself back together. Exactly. And you probably apply so much of this in business. And so then you have that problem, and it's healthy remunerating. It's that non-time in terms of you're ruminating on something good, not like all the negatives, all the stuff that could go wrong, but it's almost like what could actually what possibilities could come from this. Is that the sort of analogy you then apply with your business coaching and what you do with your clients?
Absolutely. When I sit down with my clients, I kind of talk about those first few kilometers of whatever that new thing is they're trying to do. And that's when you feel all that discomfort, all of that resistance from your mind and sometimes your body still too, of I don't want to do this thing for my business. I don't want to be on social media. I don't want to get on podcasts. I don't want to, whatever the thing is. And you don't get past that a lot of times because you never sit with it long enough to get into that flow state. You're always in that initial just couple of kilometers of discomfort. So, how do we get you past that? You've got to push through. You've got to think about the problem longer. You've got to be away from the problem a little bit, and then you can go back into it. And so, when I talk about people having a longer timeline for solving problems, you can have milestones along the way where you can celebrate that accomplishment. But if you think you're going to just keep staying in this level of uncomfort and get somewhere, it's simply not going to work.
I
So,
love that. It's funny. I was talking to someone earlier this morning about that in terms of having I call it the continuous finishing line, but it's exactly that, isn't it? Like it's kind of celebrating the milestones along the way. And I haven't heard the term, sitting with the first few kilometers and almost like easing your way in and kind of pushing through that resistance or that fear. Because it's so easy from the amygdala to just go, just give up. Don't bother. Like what God, this is torturous. Why are you putting yourself through this? But when actually if you sit with it long enough, And it's like the pause, but you're talking about sitting with the problem long enough because that's when you find the solution versus going problem solve, okay, done now. I think that's super important in life and in business today, and I just don't think at this point in time we're still doing enough of it. Like, what's your thought on that?
Absolutely. I think too many times we have emotional responses to stuff. And for a long time we've been taught, oh, there's no, crying in business or whatever. There's no emotion. You're not supposed to be emotional at work. You're just somehow supposed to turn all that off and it's just black and white and everything's very clear, but it very much isn't. We're people. And we have responses to things because of, many numbers of things that have happened to us and our experiences. And so until we start addressing those areas of why we're not getting past a problem, then we're not going to actually be able to fix the real problem. We're
Yeah.
creating those resistance areas and we don't even know it sometimes. So I think those are the deeper emotional things sometimes we need to get into.
Yeah, resistance, that good old resistance, the good old chestnut that brings to fear. I want to jump straight into the answer that you gave me when booking in for the pod because this is going to inform the next bit of our conversation. But I asked what's one unique insight, lived experience when it comes to life, leadership, or business. And you said, and I've obviously introduced you in that term, that you've done dozens of endurance events, the marathons and the triathlons across the three continents. This takes long-term preparation and commitment, which I carry over to other aspects of achieving my goals in life and business. You're 2 weeks out from the Chicago Marathon, and I should say you're living and you're based in Chicago. We were talking pre-show very briefly around this, I guess, this ability to be able to actively recover because we're in a society and world where we're constantly on and we're just we're constantly go 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 go, and as an elite athlete and or as an elite business person, there is this tendency to just keep push 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 push, but you've done all the prep for the Chicago Marathon and now you're having to, and I'm not even explaining, I'll let you peter off, like can you talk a little bit about that and obviously the response to my question? Because I think that we need more and more of this sort of conversation in business and in life and why it's so important.
It is. And again, it's something I didn't do before. I definitely pushed to the limit
Neither.
to the limits of limits, burned myself out, got stressed out, didn't do the best performance at work or anything else. And it hurt repeatedly. And so once I started doing not just the training, but coaching in this, I started to understand that most athletes, endurance athletes, you do a 3 week cycle on where you push, push, push yourself, and then you have a week of recovery where you pull back. And then the next month you push, 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 and then you have a week of recovery. And that allows your body, your mind, everything to keep getting the benefits of that push. And it's not like you're not doing anything, but it's this amazing kind of elastic band where you can keep pushing yourself further each month because you haven't gone like so far. It's not like I wake up and go, let me go do 42 kilometers tomorrow. I've been training for 9 months for this. And so each month you go a little bit further, but you keep taking that rest. And that's what we need to do with our business and with ourselves. We expect, I'm going to learn AI tomorrow and everything that ever has to go with it. I'm going to learn social media or, how to market my business. It's just not possible. There are so many more things for us to do. And so you just do a little bit more each week, give yourself that rest, and then cycle back on each time. So that's
It's
kind of the
almost
methodology I use.
Yeah, it's almost it's probably, is that a program that you've got? The three weeks of intensity, the 1 week off? Like, is that how you work with your clients in terms of, and then what do you do in those 3 weeks from a business perspective, like with them? Like, is it, you know, three things that they focus on over that 3 week period? Like when you're training and it's a 9 month preparation, you set yourself probably that end goal, but then there's the plan, like to get there. So is that the sort of thing then you work with with your clients in terms of that sort of analogy as well?
Absolutely. This is how, so we start with a 90-day plan, and within that 90-day plan, we have very specific goals for each month. And within the month, there's very specific goals for the 3 weeks. But we don't plan the activities first. I make them plan the recovery first to make
Ah,
sure that that part is sacred and that that is very clear as to what are you doing to take care of yourself? What are you doing to pull back that time? And that those things are the priority, and then you fill in the work around it in a sequence that makes sense and builds upon itself. And most people don't do that. They fill in all the stuff with work time and then they forget themselves
I know,
altogether.
and I did it for years. Like I've hit burnout myself, and or and I'd go to the gym and I'd just hustle at the gym, thinking I was like chilling out, but I so wasn't. Like I look back now, it's a huge issue in terms of this inability for us to actually find time to recover. When I first meet with clients, the first thing I want to do is look at their schedule, and they're like, "Why is she getting so tactical with me? Like it's a schedule." And I almost think they sometimes look at you as if to say, "What are you doing? Like I want you to smash the big stuff with me." But I see time and time again that a schedule is just meeting after meeting after meeting. And the minute you say, "What are you doing to recover? What are you doing to actively recover?" It's just this, "I don't have time," or "I do this, but I don't," like it's so inconsistent. And yet, business is not a sprint, it's a marathon. Like you must come across that constantly, like when you get this, "Let's start with your recovery plan."
hmm Because people are like, no, 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 like we got to get to the goal. Like I've got to make money, I've got to do the thing, I've got to get the clients. And it's like, yes, yes, we're going to do all those things. But I go so far, we do an energy map, not just of like, how they're spending their week, but how they're spending a day, like hour by hour, and really go back to time blocking, making sure sleep is your first priority, eating
Yeah.
is your second. I don't know how many clients come to me and then they're like, oh, I just worked through and I forget to eat. And then I don't have any energy and I'm cranky. No wonder, kids. No wonder. Like we gotta go back to those real basics. And then you can block in what is the most important thing you need to do. Go get clients. Okay, when do you have the best energy? Oh, first thing in the morning after I have my coffee. Cool. That's the block that you're going to go do that. And that needs to stay sacred. We just let too many things overlap and we let other people control our schedule instead of us prioritizing where those things need to go and making sure that there are those healthy breaks, whether it's a walk, a cup of tea, whatever the things are that you need for, to fuel your
Yeah.
day.
I do the chronotyping type test, and it's always fascinating to
Uh,
see who the early birds are, who the night owls are, and then who the intermediate. And I always find the ones that are the intermediate, they're probably the most challenging in terms of like trying to work through their different schedule and their different way of operating. But back to kind of this whole, like endurance and the preparation around, like a 9 month stint, for example, or like how long would it like with the Chicago Marathon on the go at the moment? How long have you been preparing for that?
Yeah, since basically the beginning of the year. So, running every single week, every single weekend, getting longer and longer. But you make the training plan, before you get started. So in December, while we're waiting for, Santa to bring our gifts, we're sitting there making training plans to plan what the year is going to look like. But also with that is what are the other things I need to do in my life? What's going on with my kids and my partner and, birthdays and family vacations? Those things have to fit into all of this big stuff. And that's where that recovery has to come in. You have to be able to make sure that you're going to enjoy those downtimes and not be stressed that you're not doing something else. I find a lot of times too, we've been taught to cram for the exam. If you talk to people of how they went to school, right, is like they just studied like really
Yeah,
quickly at
last
the
minute.
end. And we've taught us to do that about everything in our lives. And that doesn't work with a marathon and it doesn't work with your business.
That's what I was about
You
to say.
can't all of a sudden.
I was hoping you would get to this point. That's where I was leading to with this question or in this conversation. Yeah, like keep going. Sorry.
Because this is where we start to struggle. We've had all these bad patterns of how we're operating, not just being busy all the time, but forgetting those key points. And then all of a sudden being frantic and even more stressed out physically, mentally to go try to do something very quickly that should have taken us 9 months to really get to. And so it's like, don't cram for the exam. You have the whole ability to make that syllabus for how that curriculum goes to achieve that goal. You can set mini milestones throughout so you still celebrate and still make sure you stay on track, but that you're also taking that break to say, okay, I achieved that milestone. We're going to go celebrate. I'm going to go do a spa day. I'm going to go for a hike, right? Somewhere in there in
I
between.
love that. But I also think there's two things going on here for me in terms of there's just that constant reactive state, right? When we're reactive, we let everything, consume us. And we're in such a state at this point in time where it's just like everyone is, it's like this. We're just like, shh. It's like, look up, everyone, look up, look up. I mean, I know I need to do it myself at times in terms of when you get caught up in things. So there's that bit going on, but it's also there's nothing goes to plan. Like in terms of you can have the best plan, but nothing goes to plan. And so I guess what I was wanting to get to on this was that you started training, what you said in December, or you started planning in December. I'm sure you've had incidents or situations where it's like it's your plan's been interrupted, for example. How have you continued to almost like bounce forward, if you like, and kind of almost stopped and gone, okay, what's happening here? I need to review my plan and pivot, for example. And again, applying that same I guess analogy again in business, like that must happen, and you must see that all the time, and your own personal experience when it comes to training, because life happens, injuries happen, just things happen, right?
Yeah, and with business, it's this careful balance because we again just start to say like, oh, it didn't work this time. Let me be reactive and then change it, and then you're off the plan entirely.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, actually, this has been one of the most difficult marathons to train for because I got sick at the beginning of the year. So January, feeling good, getting in the rhythm. Everything's going according to plan. February, I was sick. I worked 40 days in a row. I had all this stuff like pile on. Things didn't go according to plan. I was coaching girls volleyball as well, so I was around a bunch of kids. All the kids had all
I'm
those, and it was
exhausted
winter here
hearing
in
this because it sounds like me at times. I'm like, practice what you preach, right? And then here you are, just, yeah,
and it happened, right? And it was like these opportunities came and we didn't have a chance to like let other things go. And so by the end of February, I was like, oh my goodness, we're completely off plan, business wise, personally, marathon, like all of it. So you have to immediately then stop and refocus the plan again. Okay, where are we at? We're essentially at zero for the marathon plan. The first 2 months didn't even count. We're gonna have
that
to
again.
start again. And now you don't have 9 months to plan and train. Now you have 7 months. So, what does that look like? And how can you still make that happen without, again, cramming for the exam, without overdoing it and now creating, again, being sick or injured or something else, or sacrificing something else important in your life that you're also trying to do? So, I make sure to revisit. This is why with my clients, we don't make longer than 90-day plans for most of them.
Yeah.
We really try to stay like super laser focused, and we're checking in every single month that we're on track for that 90 days. And then we reboot what's up now, what do we need to do for the next quarter, and stay just super focused on those smaller short-term goals.
Yeah, because it's the ability to reset the expectations as well, right? Like sometimes, we've got this, like, this is, we get so attached to the end result or so attached to what we think is going to be the result. And yeah, I'm also a big believer in 80% is good enough at times when, like rather than cramming for the exam, killing yourself to get the result that, life or whatever happened, it's like how do you then recalibrate in your mind that, well, what is this is about, what does success look like now? How do I reshape it? How do I shape it or how do I reshape it so that it is makes sense with where I'm at versus just continue because I've had lots of life lived experiences in life and business where I've been like, no, this is what I'm going for and I'm going to do whatever it takes. And then the universe, call me woo-woo, comes in and says, no, you're not. Like, I'm going to smack you down and you're going to get sick or something is going to happen. And because you're not listening, you're not learning, you're not aware of the fact that the more you push, it doesn't get you any further. Like the hustle, the word hustle is over. Like in terms of, and I know this, I'm probably, people will be out there going, she's outrageous to even say that hustle, but it is like hustle is just, it's not a cool word anymore. Like what's your thoughts on that?
So thankful for it, to be honest, because it was too much. And there's still pockets of where that's trying to be pushed, still as the
Oh
way
no,
to
it's
go.
important. Yeah.
But it just hasn't shown to really work, not long term. And this is also what I say. I don't run a marathon every year. I don't pick this big of a goal because it takes up so much of your life. And I tell that to my business clients as well, is I haven't run a marathon in 6 years. I do other things. I always pick a goal race each year, but I don't always do something this extensive. And you need to do the same thing in your business, whatever those goals are for you personally, that you're only focused on one really big goal so that you can go all in on it and do it with quality. Too many times we're just trying to do all the things because we've been rewarding ourselves for staying busy instead of the quality of actually finishing that big goal and maybe even exceeding it, right? And doing better than we planned.
Yeah, I think like yeah, busy being busy. We all know how to be busy being busy. Like it's almost like the scapegoat to actually having to step into quite often the unknown, having to kind of dig deep to really kind of go, actually, what is it that I'm here to do and what am I here to focus on? What are you seeing with your clients and in business that are kind of the biggest challenges they're facing right now in terms of just with where everything's at in the world and in business in general?
Yeah, economically, it's been a challenge. I mean, especially here in the US, but I know kind of globally, we're all kind of in the same boat as there's just been a decrease that people aren't spending. They're not spending on personal development as much as they used to. A lot of people have had to go back to work, or people that were kind of still working and doing the business on the side have been laid off,
Yeah.
by the thousands. And so all of those things are a factor to what's available. And people are just back to being busy. So they're not going to sit there, for 2 or 3 days listening to you yammer on about whatever things you think are super important. So it's how do we recapture with quality the connecting with the people that we need to connect with, and I think it's getting those deeper relationships which are going to make the difference. You don't need 5,000, 10,000, people to be interacting with you on a regular basis on your social media. You need 100 really quality people that
Yeah.
are eventually going to be your clients,
Yeah,
right?
quality over quantity, but you also make a really good point. Like, we're back to being busy, we're spending less, we're not investing in personal development, leadership, that sort of thing. But yet, I feel like personally the world is screaming out for a new generation of leaders, a new generation of, founders, businesses. And I do feel like we're at a tipping point where something has to shift, and so it's people like yourself, myself that are here, kind of beating the drum in terms of it doesn't have to be a, a chore, if you like. It's about the quality and it's about the output, and it doesn't have to be what's the word I'm looking for? It doesn't have to be difficult. Like there's a new way. There's a new way to do things. You don't have to be busy, be caught being stuck in the busy, constantly being reactive, feeling like you're constantly
Hmm.
catching your tail and feeling like you're burnt out and you're not hitting those goals. There's a different way to shape success, shape business, and shape yourself as a leader. Like are you seeing that as well? Like is that what's your thoughts on that?
The biggest piece I'm seeing right now, which I'm again so thankful for, is what they're kind of calling death of the guru. For the last few years, there was these kind of mega, stars in this personal development space, and they had the picture perfect videos and the, millions of views on YouTube or TikTok or whichever thing was their platform. but they weren't really, there was no substance behind it. And they've got a team of people behind them
I know.
running all of this stuff, right? For most of us, we're solopreneurs. We need to have something that is manageable for us on a daily basis. And now with AI, there's just so much fake stuff out there that it's really even more convoluting the scene. And what this is telling everybody is that this getting back to authentic, this getting back to what can I manage on a regular basis that's going to give me joy as well as attract the right people is going to be what leads us into, the coming years. Again, quality over quantity. We don't have to be super polished. We're not trying to oversell. We're trying to genuinely connect and really do good work with people that need our help.
I
So,
love that. It's just that connection, that holistic connection, the death of the guru. Yeah, it's so true though, because I can't stand the inauthenticity. What you see is what you get from me. I'm not doing it all right. I'm doing it the way I want to do it because I feel that's just I'm at my I shine my brightest and feel and perform at my best when I'm in my most authentic self. And I think by the sounds of things you're the same. And I think we need to encourage more and more of that because this polished, kind of cookie cutter approach to doing things, it's just impossible. We're just trying to keep up. And when we're trying to keep up, we lose sight of what we're focusing on. In terms of your up and coming marathon, in what's your game plan? What's the tactics that you've got planned?
finish. No. Goal number one is all, and this is the thing about the marathon. It's like, people see sort of Olympic athletes and those kind of elite folks, and they're on a whole nother level than the rest of us. It's a mental journey for the most part. It's a physical journey, but it's a mental journey to really just figure out how to break yourself into all these little bitty pieces, mile by mile, kilometer by kilometer, and build yourself back up and figure out what's next. As much as it is about, the race and the camaraderie, and it's beautiful. This is one of the biggest marathons in the world, so it's really an amazing sight. You get to see every little nook and cranny of the city, which I love. And so really just experience it and be present in the moment. So that's for me, like the biggest goal. I feel like too, I've been really busy with my business and my family and just to do something for myself that I love doing and I haven't been able to do for a while
Yeah,
because lockdowns and things were
it's
canceled.
amazing. It's amazing that you're doing this. Can I ask a question? At what
Please.
at what mark of the race, and you can tie this back to business as well. Well, you may not even know this, but like, what do you do when every bit of your mind and your body and your soul is just saying, give up, just quit, just walk? Because I've had those moments in when I've been doing things, but then all of a sudden something just goes, no. Like and it's the same in business. Like, like you've talked around solopreneurship, being a founder. There's days where you're just like, where is this all heading? What is going on? It's just like, this is, you know, what do you do in those moments? Like when everything's telling you just to quit.
I've really built, I think, quite a few mantras for myself and things I use with my clients. And it's also putting things back in perspective and reframing. So even if, let's say again, I'm in those first 2 miles, a couple kilometers, and I'm already like, why in the world am I doing this? And I've got, another 4 or 5 hours that I'm going to be out here. This is going to be miserable and I don't want to do it. And I can just quit now. And there's my car. And getting past those points. So how do we keep reframing? Okay, well, it's only one day, right? It's only one day, and we can just keep going. And then, oh, look, it's a beautiful day. The sun is rising. Let me go look and admire that over there. You have to keep pulling yourself out of what you're feeling and start to really just appreciate what's happening and be as present as you can. Oh, look, that person seems to be struggling more than I am. Let me go give them a high five. Let me go tell them they're doing a good job and stop dealing so much with like my pain and do that in business too. I don't know how many times we just have a meeting to just be happy. Like, let's just celebrate every little thing that's going on. Or if you're struggling, how can I help? And stop being so much like worried about what's going on with us. The more we can make this a community and keep helping each other, then that's why I like running to begin with, and that's why I like supporting other business
I love
owners.
it. It's something that I'm playing with, or not playing with, but in business and it's the same in life, but we need to be present. We need that purpose. and we need the performance, right? That high performance. But by having those three, and obviously people as well, like the community piece is the people, but that's everything you're talking around. You've got the purpose for, the 4 or 5 hours that you're running, and what your purpose is. It's about staying present, not thinking too far ahead, not thinking backwards. It's just like, how do I stay here right now? And looking around, that looking up piece, that's going to get the performance, like, and the people is all inclusive. That will get you through. And I think that that's almost like what we need more and more of is exactly what you're talking about, is that ability to tap into all of that, because that is what is going to inform the next era, if you ask me, of leaders, and the next era of businesses. That if you have that ability to do all of that, you're putting yourself in good stead. Couple of two final questions for you.
Of course.
I've already asked one around your mindset when it comes to the marathon. What would you, or maybe it's just one question. What would be one tip or a piece of advice for a business owner, founder who has no form of recovery or active recovery in their schedule whatsoever, and they know and they want to start, but they just don't know how to? What would be the piece of advice you would give them?
I get a lot of these folks, and because it just is like, but all these things need to be done. And that's absolutely true. First of all, they don't believe that the recovery will help them. That's a lot of it, is how do I make sure that they actually believe it? And if I can get them to believe it for, let's say, 15 minutes, then I can get them to believe it for a longer amount of time. And so one of the first things I always encourage people to do is take a walk. Find a place, especially if you're working
In
at home.
nature.
So you get out of the house and go walk for just 15 minutes. It doesn't have to be super long, but how do you just recalibrate your system? Again, it gives you time to open your mind, either be present, admire the birds, or solve a problem you're having. But let's start with something very small, is can I just get you to take a 15-minute break, which is a physical recovery, a nervous system recovery, all
Yeah.
the things. And then, once you start seeing that really give you the difference, then we can talk about, oh, okay, take a day off, take a week off, make a more reasonable amount of hours that you work in a day. Because now you start to believe and feel the difference. When you're all plugged into the matrix, you can't seem to get yourself out.
No, it's
So
so
you got,
true.
yeah.
So true. Can I tell you one quick thing? On Sunday night, I pulled my laptop out and I was going to do a few things. And my dog, he's 21 months, Molly Bob, he saw me with my laptop, and I was tired. I won't lie. I was feeling tired. I was just like, oh, but if I just check a few things and do a few things, it'll set me up for the start of the week. Again, practice what you preach, right? But none of us here are like, we're all kind of learning, we're all evolving. He cried and cried and cried at me. He was just beside himself because he saw me with the laptop. And I couldn't ignore him. And so I literally just went, okay, I'll shut my laptop up. And I shut my laptop, and then we went and laid on the couch and just rested like that. It was literally what I needed. And then yesterday, I was so much fresher. And I actually stopped him on our walk and I said, thank you. Like, I actually spoke to him and said, thank you. It was like this profound moment, but it was like he had tapped into my energy and was just like, but because it was mum time, it was me time with him on the weekend, and he was just not into it. But I think this is where I'm going with this, is that it's the awareness, isn't it? It's the awareness to, and the ability to go, I surrender, and I just need to step away, take that 15-minute break, step away, do whatever I need to do, because when you come back to it, you're going to feel a lot fresher, and you're going to then be able to get into the flow state, and everything's going to feel a lot more effortless than efforting.
Mm. And I didn't believe it for a long time too. So, I'm right there with a lot of them. It's not until I really started doing it and committing to it, like actually putting it on my schedule to block
Same.
it out and make sure it happens. If you have to move it plus or minus a little bit within the day, fine, but make sure that it's blocked in there regularly and that you're taking those breaks, because you do come back so much more refreshed, and I'm able to be like twice as productive once I'm back. So.
Yeah, amazing. Nikki, how do we find out more about you? Is there a way to watch you in the Chicago Marathon in 2 weeks' time?
Yeah, I'm sure there's an athlete tracker there somewhere where you
Yeah.
can, me and a couple thousand of my other closest friends that'll be running around. I'll be way behind all the elite guys that'll be finished probably before I
You'll be
barely start.
amazing. You'll be amazing.
But if people want to connect with me, otherwise, I'm at thenikkigreen.com and you can catch me, whatever you want to chat, watch me dance on TikTok, or you can
Oh yeah, I think you've fun
connect with
on
me on
TikTok.
LinkedIn.
I'm gonna add that into this. And then obviously you got your podcast, Stand Up and Stand Out. Just quickly tell us what that's about.
I interview people about their career journey, about what the zigs and zags really were, what they originally thought they were going to study and do, and then all those beautiful twists and turns that life really takes to show people that it's a cumulative experience, not some straightforward path, and that allowing those experiences to happen are what are going to find those passionate things that keep you going and really interested in your career, your business, and
Love
what you
it.
end up doing long term.
I'm going to be
Yeah.
tuning in. Nikki, thank you so much. And no doubt you're going to smash this Chicago Marathon in 2 weeks. You've got me inspired. I need to do some sort of endurance event. Maybe it's like I don't know, 12-hour reformer Pilates marathon or something. I used to run, but I don't run anymore. But I've got to find something. You've got me inspired to do something and kind of take my take myself out of my comfort zone, see where my
I
mental
love it.
can take me. But thank you so much and enjoy the kind of the petering off now to be ripe and ready for the big day in 2 weeks' time.
Thank you so much. I'm really excited, and it's been a joy getting to spend the evening with you.
Yeah, thank you.